A very big welcome to all the PFS and CII members joining us live or catching up with the recording of this webinar, How to Pass PFS and CII Exams First Time. I know there's no such thing as PFS exams, but you know what I mean. What we'll be talking about today will apply to all your regulation exams. And by the way, I'll be announcing news at the end of a massive, massive opportunity. If you're taking exams or are soon to start taking them, you really won't want to miss it. So make sure you stay till the end. I really do understand what you're up against. I mean, is there anybody here who isn't really short of time? I realize you're very, very busy people, and I know you have to focus on your clients and your portfolio. I understand you have to develop and grow your business, whether it's your own company or whether you're contributing to the bottom line for your employer. The pressure's on to get everything done, and you're expected to prioritize, but everyone expects you to prioritize them, so there's no let up. And it's not just at work, at home too. You have responsibilities. There are people depending on you. Your physical and mental resources are being stretched all the time. Talking of which, you know you should be making time to look after your health, getting some exercise, building in some relaxation time. But when? It's all important, but there's so much to do. And then to top it all off, studying and exams. When on earth are you supposed to find the time and energy for that? It's no wonder passing exams isn't a breeze. At least they haven't been until now. Because that's why I'm here, to show you that there is a better way. A way to study which fits in around your other commitments. A way which is quick and efficient, and one that you'll enjoy. Don't believe me? Stick around and I'll explain. This webinar just might change your life. Here's what you'll get today. Why you forget nearly everything you learn. How other advisors are keeping you from succeeding. What to do so you pass every exam first time. And of course, by doing less work, not more. I'll show you what you've been doing wrong and why it doesn't work. And I'll show you exactly what to do instead to discover how to learn quickly and efficiently so that you pass every single exam, whichever exam it is. Diploma or advanced exams, whatever the subject matter, ROs, JOs, AFs, the lot. You'll pass each first time every time with a score of 80% or more and get your certifications in the fastest time possible. What's more, because it's not a certificate collecting box ticking exercise, but instead real learning, deep learning, you'll find you automatically retain the information forever. So in actual fact, you'll become increasingly knowledgeable by default, leaving you free to race ahead in your career and income too. My exam passing geniuses go on to double, triple, and in some cases even quadruple their incomes, while future-proofing themselves against any changes the FCA might make to the minimum qualification requirement. If that sounds useful, and especially if it sounds highly unlikely, then you really need to stick around to the end and give me a chance to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about, because I know you could be winning too. Okay, here we go. If you think of any questions, message me and we'll go through them at the end. I'm going to explain to you why you forget. In fact, why you're so very good at forgetting. It'll help you make sense of the experience you've had, and maybe you'll be a little kinder to yourself when you understand it's perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with you. Having studied the research about how the brain learns, and there's plenty of it, by the way, it's clear. Science consistently demonstrates that study and exam success comes down to not who you are, but what you do, your study strategy, the actions you take. And that's the best news of all, because if what you're already doing doesn't work, you can always do something else. Everyone is capable of taking a different action, even me, even you. And when you do something else, you'll get different results. And if you're smart, the particular something else that you do will be well informed and strategic, so that by doing it, you can predict, guarantee a successful outcome. And that means that everyone is perfectly capable of getting the results they need in their exams. Let me show you why I know this for certain and why I have total confidence in what I say. And if that sounds too good to be true, then you really need to be on this webinar. You are in the right place. Here's what we're going to cover. 3 sections: memory, methodology, process. In the first section, we'll look at memory, what's going on with that, and why you need to do something different so that you retain information. In the second section, methodology, we'll identify what's gone wrong in the past and what you need to do instead. Finally, in the third section, we'll look at the step-by-step process of getting information into your head and then keeping it there, and then how to do both quickly and easily. This will mean that by the end of this webinar, you'll know everything you need to have in place to change your exam results round. Okay, so you might be wondering, why am I doing this webinar? My name is Lisette Offley, and I'm known as the Genius Maker. I'm a memory and mindset coach with loads of world-class training, plenty of experience, and bags of success, having already spent 20 years teaching in the classroom, and then another 20 or so running my own business. I love helping people break through to a higher level of achievement and effectiveness, and I'm good at what I do. And by the way, this is not yet more technical training. You've got great technical trainers and not so great ones coming out of your ears already. What you need is someone to show you how to remember what they tell you, how to remember what you learn from textbooks, videos, audios, and all the other sources of learning we have these days. And that's where I come in. So what's going on with your memory? Being forgetful seems to be the biggest part of the problem we're battling with when it comes to exams. But is there more to it than that? Are we missing something? Like we said, there's so little time and so much to do. And studying is hard work. Your brain uses about 25% of the energy you get from food, and that's a lot of fuel. Using your brain is tiring. And the thing about studying is that you're the one who has to do it. You can't outsource it. You have to do it yourself. There's no getting around that. But if you're going about it the wrong way, then your studying experience is going to be much more painful and taking you much longer than it needs to. And then on top of that, if you're having to resit each exam and learn all that stuff over again, well, enough said. So what is the problem? Why do so many advisors struggle with exams? And by advisors, I'm talking financial advisors and planners, insurance brokers, wealth managers, all of you working in the financial services sector. After all, you're familiar with the subject, aren't you? Aren't you using this information every day in your job? If not directly, indirectly. Even if you're not a mortgage broker, you understand the principles of borrowing money. There are crossover points with the professional world you inhabit. It's familiar stuff, isn't it? And you're not daft. On the contrary, you're skilled and knowledgeable. You're professional. You're supremely capable. So what's the problem? Well, part of the issue is, and we all do it, to solve a problem, we tend to do the same thing over and over. When it comes to studying, if that's working for you, it's great. If it's not, it's not. Most of us don't think about a study strategy. Instead, when it comes to studying, as with most things, we do what we know. After all, that's all we've got, isn't it? But unfortunately, when we keep doing the same old thing and keep getting the same old results, most of us start building a less than charitable attitude towards ourselves about the exam, the examiner, and examining body. Yeah, I know who's listening. We blame the profession, our work circumstances, our career choices, and on it goes. Of course, this is all damaging to our confidence and self-esteem. What most of us do at this point is start believing there's something wrong with us, and that doesn't feel good. And that belief is based on an illusion. A compelling one, I grant you. It really can look that way. But there's nothing wrong with you. There's plenty wrong with your study strategy. That's what you should be blaming. Meanwhile, unless you recognize that those negative feelings are simply the inevitable result of an unsuccessful strategy, you could find yourself giving up altogether. When you change your strategy, and inevitably, therefore, your results, of course you'll change how you feel about yourself. But hey, you're not the only one stopping you, you know. Other professionals are too. How? By perpetuating the myth that it takes several goes to pass each exam. It doesn't look like a myth. It doesn't sound like a myth. It feels very real. But the problem is, with that attitude, nothing changes. They're not going to be looking for a solution to a problem that appears as fixed, unchangeable, appears as fact, like the sky is blue, the grass is green, it is what it is, nothing can be done about it. And so it really does become a self-fulfilling prophecy, which keeps the problem in place. It's also a convenience. It's a great excuse for not passing the exams. And besides, at least it feels as though you're all in it together. My job is to let you know that passing exams is a problem you really can solve. Look, there's something I want you to take away, something I want you to remember. It's not you. Look, when you're dating, that's an expression you don't want to hear, nor what's coming next. But on this occasion, I hope it'll be a bit of a relief to hear it. Why? Because the trouble you've had passing your exams isn't your fault. It's not you. See, the thing is, human beings are hardwired to forget. Yes, you heard me correctly. That'll be you. We're born with a very useful skill of forgetting. Let me explain. Psychologically, our brains and bodies are pretty much identical to the brains and bodies of our ancestors of 10,000 years ago. Physiologically, we haven't evolved any further, at least not yet. 10,000 years is a short time in terms of evolution. So even though our environment has changed so much, the mental and physical equipment we're using to handle it is still ideally suited to living in caves. We'll keep coming back to this because it explains so much. We're supposed to forget. Forgetting is perfectly natural and normal. That would be all fine and good, but forgetting is part of the exam problem we're experiencing. However, once you know how to compensate for that, how to learn, everything changes. Have a look at this graph. The pink area shows you that even if advisors learn nearly 100% of what they intend to, and I can guarantee they don't, but hey, let's be generous for a moment. After learning nearly 100% of what they've intended to, most have forgotten the majority of it within 24 hours. That's how forgetful we are by default, because of the way our brains have evolved to work. Look how much evaporates during the first 10 minutes. Bet that surprises you. And it only gets worse. Look at that steadily declining pink line. The good news is, as you can see in the blue area, I can show you how to make information really stay in your head and give you the tools to make it easy and fun so you'll remember 80% and more, even 6 months later and beyond. So not only do you begin to accumulate knowledge, it actually doesn't matter exactly when you sit the exam. So there's no more Scrabble to find some last-minute technical training, hoping that at least some of the information you've been told is still in your head for the exam. Instead, real, deep learning like this is the way to pass exams consistently and to become an expert in your field. If you're going to put some hard graft into studying, isn't it better if that information stays in your head so you can continue to use it? Instead of all that work amounting to a piece of paper you can put on the wall, but nothing else. And don't give me that, I'll never need to know this stuff, so why do I have to learn it nonsense? It is nonsense. If you're thinking and behaving like the professional you are, it's all relevant. You expect other professionals to demonstrate their overall grasp of the wider context for their specialism. So why wouldn't your clients expect that same level of professionalism from you? The only thing that makes sense of the effort you're making is if your hard work is paid off, firstly, with an easy pass at your first attempt, and secondly, that you remember what you've had to learn. You never know when it really might serve you. It may not feel like it at times, but your brain is incredibly capable. But you've got to give it what it needs to do a good job for you. I've been in the teaching game for 40 years, and it's still very, very rare for schools to provide their pupils with anything more than one afternoon of general study skills. It's not enough. So while we're amazing learners, think about the many, many things you've learned about and learned to do. And our brains are exceptionally brilliant bits of kit, beautifully designed for the job. We haven't evolved to make learning from an artificial construct, such as a book, audio, or video, the piece of cake it needs to be. The good news, though, is that it's never too late. It doesn't matter what age you are now, nor what specific line of work you're doing. Once you discover the best way for you to learn, you've got it for life. Yeah, I'd love it if we could give that gift to kids at school. But if you feel you missed that particular boat, you can still come on board now and change your future. Once you know how to get information into your head and keep it there, you can pass any exam you choose, any subject, any level of difficulty, whether it's work-related or, for example, learning a language for fun. That's exactly what Ben did. He failed his trusts and taxation exam for the umpteenth time, and then, understandably enough, put off trying again for 6 years. 6 years of delay, time lost, and lost opportunity too. Of course, once he discovered how to learn efficiently, he passed that bloomin' trust and taxation exam and went straight on to 2 more advanced exams. He's now chartered and doing a great job of building a portfolio of ideal clients. There are thousands and thousands of people struggling to pass exams, and yet nobody else is offering the same help. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, forgetting. Why do we forget? Why did we evolve to forget? What's that all about? So now you know physiologically we're pretty much the same as we were 10,000 years ago when we lived in caves. You need to know the automatic unconscious part of the brain, then as now, helped us to make sense of the world and keep us safe. One of the useful things that it did was to systematically let go of old information, which was likely to be out of date and less useful, in favour of retaining more recent information, more likely to keep us alive and well. No, wait a minute. So that's what it's all about. It was an advantage to our cave-dwelling ancestors to forget where the herd of deer was seen 2 weeks ago, but instead remember where it was last thing last night. Remembering more recent information can make the difference between eating today and not eating today. Now, that makes some sense. Or forgetting where the dangerous predator was yesterday when there's been a more recent sighting today. That also makes sense. And indeed, forgetting is still very useful today. How much more important is it to forget where you put your wallet, your phone, your car keys last year, but remember where you put them 2 hours ago, or better still, 5 minutes ago? While even today, forgetting older information can be very useful, it's not going to help you pass those pesky exams. And another fun fact, it's reckoned that around 70% of professionals aren't studying according to how their own brain processes information best. You see, you have your own way of dealing with day-to-day information. Okay, we're often a bit overwhelmed, but on the whole, you do okay, don't you? Your brain, that's to say, the brain cells and wiring you've developed, already does information beautifully. How you handle information is unique to you, and stuff just works when you do things your way. But if you're not studying the best way your brain does information, well, is it any wonder that it's such hard work? Forgetting stuff is meant to keep us safe, because we're focusing not on out-of-date information, but instead on current intel. But unlike running away from a hungry wild animal, your brain just doesn't see passing exams as crucial to your survival. It's not in the same league. And so maybe the biggest mistake most advisors make is not realizing what it takes for information to really get into our heads and then stay there. Because memories are a funny old thing. Each time you recall a memory, you strengthen the neural connections of that memory, making it easier and easier to recall each time you do so. Think about any habit or thought pattern that's become easier and easier the more you practice it. Paradoxically, though, unlike retrieving files from the computer, when the memory arrives in the part of the brain called the hippocampus, it's unstable and changeable. You see, our brains filter information all the time. Since we receive something like 10,000 bits of information a second, the brain, lucky for us, automatically takes care of it, making sense of it, and makes us aware of only the bits that are essential to our survival, number one, and interest in that moment, number two. That explains why the husband, Nige, watching the footy on TV, is so engrossed that he simply doesn't hear his wife, me, asking him if he wants a cup of tea, nor indeed a smack in the teeth. Because your brain is constantly deleting, generalizing and distorting information for you without you even being aware of it. It's doing it in order for you to make sense of the world and keep you safe. That's its job after all. When it comes to studying, you need to work with the way your brain functions naturally and brilliantly instead of fighting it. Because fighting it is what you've been doing, isn't it? And it doesn't work, but you don't need me to tell you that. When we were young, we didn't worry about how to learn. We just got on with it. And excellent learners we are too. You're a great learner. We all are. You wouldn't be where you are already if that weren't true. But no one teaches you how to learn the sort of stuff you get in your textbook. It's not natural to learn from books. We're not physiologically designed for that. Physiologically, we're still optimized for spotting and surviving those saber-toothed tigers. I love this quote. If the brain is a learning machine, then it's an eccentric one, and it performs best when its quirks are exploited. That's Benedict Carey. So in part 2 of this webinar, let's look at methodology. We'll identify and analyze where you've been going wrong and why the effort you're making while studying doesn't translate to rewarding results. And we'll also look at what you should be doing instead, how we can exploit our quirks. You know, I've been in the learning business for 40 odd years, and I've learned a few things myself along the way. I've discovered there are several reasons why advisors are struggling to pass exams. And you're probably very familiar with the consequences of many of these already. First of all, need I mention it again, we're also very short of time. We're already working flat out. Being so stretched leaves us very little energy to work out where we're going wrong. Our experience of exams is often a miserable and disappointing one, which also leaves little room for motivation and enthusiasm for more of the same. And talking of the same, we know it already. If your strategy didn't do the job the first time or the second time, it ain't going to do it the third time, is it? And that's the point, really. Most advisors don't currently have a study strategy which works, let alone around their other commitments. And often you're given well-meaning but duff advice. No wonder it doesn't work, even if you do keep doing it. Finally, advisors are very often, and naturally enough, familiar with the topic they're studying. But this fools them into believing they're exam ready. Familiarity isn't mastery. I need you to go into that exam knowing exactly what you have to say so that the examiner cannot not give you full marks. And what about the actual study strategy itself? What mistakes are being made there? Well, here's what most advisors do when they study. Bet you recognize yourself here because most people, when they sit down to study, fall into one of four camps. Camp number one, wronger writers, the writers among us. In the first camp are the people who tend to copy everything in their textbook because they're afraid of missing something important. Oh, doesn't work. And if this is your strategy, you'll already know that too. And here's why. The more you write, the more you forget. Not much cop for exams then. Camp number two, nothing to reporters, our typers. In the second camp are those of you who type up your notes on your computer or tablet. Research consistently demonstrates that you're using shallower processing. In other words, you're actually using less of your brain to create them. Using less of your brain makes it a lot easier to forget them. Does that sound like a good idea to you? Camp number three, don't mind readers. These peeps in the third camp are our prolific readers. They're the folk who read and read and read and reread their textbooks over and over again. I guess many of you will know this doesn't work either. If you've ever noticed you keep reading the last paragraph over and over again, only to discover you still haven't taken in a single word, then you already know it sends your brain to sleep. Tragically, many advisors are told to read and reread their textbook by their technical trainers. Oops. Camp number four, heavy highlighters. Fans of psychedelia. And we're not talking a well-known TV cookery personality, and other TV personalities are available, my lawyer reminds me. Some folk grab a bunch of highlighter pens and go through their textbook, highlighting generously as they go. While they're no doubt attempting to color code their book, when their textbook ends up looking like this, how does that help them to recall any of it later? I mean, really, it's a lot of effort to go to for none of it to stick in your head. Oh, actually, there is one more group of people. Camp number five, no hopers. When I'm feeling more generous, I might call them the go-it-aloners. Either way, they're the ones who've tried everything else and are now desperately trying anything, such as sleeping on the job. It's said, not by me, that if you put your textbook under your pillow at night, you'll absorb all the information unconsciously. Well, good luck with that. Don't waste your time. And please don't waste your time on the other and more common mistakes we've just looked at. And if you do indeed belong to one of these camps, the best thing you can do right now is to stop camping, because there's a better way of doing this, as you're about to discover. And I'm not talking about taking test paper after test paper either. It's a waste of time testing yourself on information that's not in your head yet. You can make better use of your time and energy. Clearly, Era did. She found me after failing her AF2 exam twice. But once she discovered the best way to study, she sailed through and got her chartered status. Same with Richard, also now chartered. Same with Nick. He failed AF5 3 times. 3 times! Fortunately, he looked for a better solution to his study problems and knocked AF5 into the park and went on to get his chartered status as a financial planner. Look, all these people are perfectly capable and resourceful professionals. But they were going about their studying all wrong, and it showed in their exam results. Once they knew what to do instead, everything changed. And notice it doesn't matter what level of education you reached in the past. Maybe you've come from an academic background like Nick, who already had achieved his chartered status in securities and investment. You might think it would be a walk in the park to do the same in financial services, but like you, he struggled. So it doesn't matter if you left school early and did go to further education. None of this matters. What matters is once you know how to learn, you know, and you can just get on with it. Here's David. We needed to stop him wasting his time doing stuff that wasn't working. Instead, he implemented the quickest and simplest strategy to learn information easily. And as you can see, I mean, look at his scores. 90%, 86%. He whizzed straight through the remaining advanced exams and got his chartered status. How do you feel if this was you? It really could be you, you know. You just need to know the secret to easy learning. Want to know the secret? Well, you should. Because once you know this secret, your studying and your whole life will get a darn sight easier. The secret is that there are 3 keys to learning, just 3 simple keys. When you know them and use them, You'll remember 80% of what you learn instead of forgetting 80%. And that's the way to learn anything. That's the way to pass exams. And that's the way to become a true expert in your field. So, are you ready to know what those 3 keys are? Oh, and by the way, they're really simple. Anyone can follow them. Anyone, especially you. Here they are, the 3 keys to learning. Think, T, N, T, and like dynamite, blast your way to exam success. You might want to grab a pen and make a note of what I'm about to say. Key number 1, time. You have to spend enough time with the information in the first place for your brain to make a pattern of it and send it to your long-term memory. The time you need will vary from person to person and from day to day, and also depending on the nature of the information you're learning. There's no shortcut. This is the first and most important step to set you up for success. Key number 2, notes. You need to select the right information from the material presented to you, whether in a textbook, a video, an audio, and you need to manipulate it for yourself. The information needs to become brain-friendly to your brain, that is. In other words, to a form your brain likes. And that's why it's no good trying to emulate someone else's study strategy. We're all different. There's no one size fits all. You'd better do what your brain needs you to if you're the one taking the exam. Key number 3, test. Keep that information in your head by testing yourself in a quick, fun, deliberate, and particular way. If you don't get this right, you'll have wasted every single moment that you've already spent studying. No kidding. We're hardwired to forget. So even if you've got the information into your head at some point, if you're normal, and I'd hazard a guess you are, you will have started forgetting it 10 minutes after you've learnt it. Don't do that to yourself. Better that you spend your time doing something else entirely, something easier, something fun and stress-free, so not golf then. You really do have to incorporate the 3 parts. Otherwise, while it might look as though you're doing a good job of studying, it might even feel as though you're doing a great job. Well, you know what the upshot is. You've got the disappointing exam results to prove it. You see, your brain will try to trick you into thinking you've done enough studying, or into believing that whatever study activity you're using is the real deal, or into leaving it all to the last minute. Your brain wants you to be comfortable and to not worry about facts and figures and all that hard stuff. And that's why it's such a shock when you fail an exam again, because you know you worked hard. Well, it felt like it anyway. Surely it's better to work smart now you know better to do what works, and at the same time cut out any and all useless effort. Because these 3 keys, that's all there is to it. Learning is actually really simple and anyone can do it. That's why all my clients using my system pass their exams first time, and with a score of around 80%. And remember what they've learned after the exam, so it actually becomes useful knowledge. You become even better at your job. Imagine the difference that would make. Here's the difference. Pedro passed all of these exams in just 2 months. RO4, RO2, J10, RO8, RO5, LP2 in just 2 months, and it's gone on from strength to strength. So basically, you can either suffer the way your brain lets go of older information and changes that information each time you use it when it deletes, distorts, and generalizes, or you can work with it so that you develop new brain cells and strengthen the connections between them. Meet Lawrence. Learning how to learn has made such a huge difference, not just to his exam results, but also to his confidence and ability to judge when he's ready to take an exam. We had an exam date we were aiming for. Of course, being an online exam, he could sit it when he was ready. He didn't have to wait for the next event at the exam centre. But he completely took me by surprise one day by telling me casually, oh, by the way, I sat my exam at the weekend. What? He wasn't due to take it for another couple of weeks, but no, I'd heard him right. He felt ready to take the exam, took it, and passed. And you know, he did exactly the same thing with the next exam too. And when I say passed, look at the sort of scores he's getting. With his latest exam, RO3, tax, we spent some time examining his process for deciphering the questions and answers. I know for a fact he's not the only one who finds that very confusing, and no doubt why many of my clients call it a multiple guess exam. It obviously did the trick because Lawrence did it yet again. Here's what he said. Afraid I've done it again. It really was, honestly, a spontaneous decision, but I decided to do RO3 just before my 2-week holiday starts. I'm delighted to say I've passed the unit. Well, of course he has. No one's surprised anymore. And I bet he enjoyed his holiday all the more for getting another exam under his belt and not having to worry about coming back to it afterwards. He went on to say, there were so many questions on this one that could trip you up, far more than I remember from R01 and R05. I'm not telling you what else he said about that, I'm far too polite. And it doesn't matter anyway, because as Margaret Thatcher would have put it, this guy's not for tripping. Maria scored 89% in CF8. It's a quality problem, wouldn't you say, when the 1% extra you wish you'd got, instead of having you scrape over the pass mark, instead would have got you a distinction. You see, you need to be willing to make changes to your belief, your study strategy, and your whole approach. You need to set yourself up to avoid distractions and stop making excuses. Mark used to read and reread the textbook, go through them again with highlighter pens, sit practice papers, and make mind maps, all of which he put round the house to try and keep their contents fresh in his mind. It all sounds good, and indeed, they got him to a certain level of qualification. But now, on top of everything else, a new baby at home. For advanced exams, he needed a new approach. Have you got other things in your life taking up a lot of energy? Are you heading for advanced exams? Do you need to up your game? Okay. We've arrived at the third and final part of our webinar. In a moment, we'll have a look at exactly what you need to have in place to make the difference you need. Timmy is a compliance advisor. He's attended loads of technical training, but still wasn't getting the results he needed. He knew he was missing something important. It's the same story whenever I speak to advisors like you. The problems they experience all come down to the fact they lack just one thing, the one thing that matters. And I'd be willing to bet you're missing it too. And Chris, same again, missing just the one thing he needed. And again, as soon as he addressed that, he passed his exams and got his chartered status. Can you see the pattern here? I told you earlier I have absolute confidence that this stuff works and that it will work for you as it did for Scott. Look, there's another score in the 80s. We're not surprised anymore, are we? I love it when a client, after trying my methodology for the first time, says something like, is that all we have to do? And I say, well, does it work? Yeah, they reply, hardly able to believe what they're saying. So I asked them, then why on earth would you do anything else? So about this missing piece, it's genius material. Each of my genius material programs is built on the simple 3-step method you need to consistently and reliably pass every exam first time with a score of 80% plus and remember what you've learned forever, not to mention thoroughly enjoy the process to boot. Genius material has been developed and extensively tested and has been described as the missing link by leading educationalists such as Brian Hipkin, Dean of Regent's University. All of these advisors and all the people I've ever worked with, like you, are resourceful and capable. Once they'd put in place the one thing they were missing, they sailed through their exams. So here are some top tips for exam success. When you think about your current study strategy, ask yourself, what's working, what's not working, what's missing? What distractions can you get rid of that otherwise interrupt your studying? What simple process will you put in place that you can easily fit in around your other commitments that's easy and fun and motivates you? What support and resources do you need to set yourself up for success? If you stop doing the things that don't work, what are you going to do instead? Are you going to continue to guess what they are, or are you going to decide to stop wasting time and effort and get the training and support you need to get it right? The only person who can make these changes is you. What are you going to do about it? Hey, but what's the rush? Why now? I mean, for goodness sake, we know you're busy. Why is it important to focus on solving your exam and study problems right now? And it obviously is, or you wouldn't be here on this webinar. Maybe you're missing additional income and financial opportunities while you're still not getting the qualifications you need. Who knows if and when the FCA may raise the bar as they did in the Retail Distribution Review of 2012. You want to be ahead of the game, not struggling last minute to save your job. Maybe new, younger people are coming through who are better qualified than you. That's damaging to your self-esteem and credibility. You need to be at least at the same level, if not more advanced, to maintain your status in the company, whether you own it or you're working for a bigger firm. Or maybe you've been putting the whole exam thing off for a long while, and you know that that doesn't feel good either. What about job flexibility? Being fully qualified and compliant gives you far more opportunity to choose the jobs you want and avoid having to work for whoever will take you. Being better qualified and being perceived as professional attracts higher net worth clients and a higher and more reliable source of income for you. The exam journey is a long one. It needs to be sustainable and fun. You know that if you don't act now, over time your options will only get narrower. And it's a sobering thought that the most control you'll ever have over your future is now. And those of you working towards your diploma, you know that without the right certification behind you, you're not qualified for your job. Without your diploma, you're not easily employable. Even if you're lucky enough to have been taken on by a company supporting you while you get your exams, you know jolly well that it can't go on forever. You have to pass your exams and get your diploma, or you'll lose your job, your income, your security. You might as well give up on your goals. I ask why now is the time. You'll have your own reasons. I've got mine too. More about that later, but for now, to recap, you need to pay attention to the 3 keys to learning. You need to spend enough time with information. You need to manipulate the information into a form your brain likes, and you need to test yourself regularly to keep the memory trace in your brain, and that's it. And that's the secret to learning anything. I promised to explain in this webinar why you forget nearly everything you learn. Now you know it's because 1, we're hardwired to forget. 2, it's because no one teaches you how to learn the sort of information you need to learn to pass finance exams. And 3, because it's only your study strategy to blame. I've explained how other financial advisors and the exam system and the prevailing beliefs are keeping you from succeeding. And I've told you what you need to do to pass every exam first time. You need to find out exactly how your brain is already handling information beautifully and design that into your bespoke study strategy, whose foundation is the 3 keys to learning. How much time and energy have you already wasted? What about the extra money you would have earned during that time? Look, do you really want to work harder? Surely you need to work smarter. Here's Peter. He and Vicky put off starting a family years ago when Vicky was taking her banking exams because her studying took all her time and energy. Eventually, she got those exams and worked in the industry. Everything was good, except Vicky changed her mind. She decided she actually wanted to be a financial advisor, and that meant embarking on exams again. But now they had the family they'd originally put off, and time and energy were already spread very thinly. However, this time, with the help we've been talking about, she proper whizzed through her exams to get her chartered status. What's more, she did so well that she was awarded a prize for highest exam marks in her region. Yannick, French, necessarily studying in his second language. Nevertheless, he rapidly progressed through his exams. Won advanced level exam just a month after I'd helped him and went on to chartered in record time. Jo, a commercial insurance advisor, scored a cool 100% in her exam. See, it's not impossible. There's a whole world of success out there I want you to be part of. You won't be surprised when I tell you she's chartered. When I work with my clients, I'm at their side at every step, so there's no room for them to not know what to do. There's no room for them to fail. They're not left wondering what to do next. They don't get stuck. They don't struggle. Can you see how, if they turn their results around, so can you? Look, I'm not the only one who recognizes the value in what I bring to your career and sanity. And here's what ambitious, proactive advisors like you have been paying me. I wanted you to see this so you know what my help is worth. But hang on to your hats. I've got the most outrageous offer for you. And this is another reason why you should knock your exam problem on the head right now, because right now I'm expediting my own goal. I know my learning system is cutting edge and disruptive. I've developed and proven it close to 40 years. My own ambitious goal is to help 1 million professionals transform their personal effectiveness and exam results. So I need your help. You really are in the right place at the right time, because my goal is to make my Genius Material programs accessible to more people. You'll get the same stellar training and hands-on support, but here's the deal. And bear with me. For reference, here are my programs and prices. Just wait till you hear what I've got to say. Look, if you would like to, you can invest 7K and work one-to-one with me, and I'll stay with you until you pass your exam. It's by invitation only, so you'll need to get in touch if you're interested. Or you can invest 500 quid in Jumpstart. It's missing a lot of the amazing features of the other 2 programs, but what it teaches you will be infinitely better than what you've been doing. But please don't invest in either of these programs, not until you hear what I'm going to offer you. Because here's the really, really amazing opportunity I've been talking about. Right now, I'm absolutely slashing the price of Fast Track, absolutely annihilating it. Fast Track has innumerable benefits. It includes the core training, but also my Genius Zone profiling. I've designed it so I don't see your individual answers, but so my algorithm will simply identify how you already do information beautifully in your day-to-day life. This means that you can access the further bespoke training, specifically suited to the way your brain processes, stores, and retrieves information. Would you know, for example, if working with a study buddy is a good idea for you? You will do once we've ascertained your genius zone. It will stop you wasting time doing all the wrong things and instead identify exactly what you should be doing. Just think how much better that will be. As well as the Genius Material membership area where you'll access your training, you'll belong to the Fast Track community. This serves you in two major ways. Firstly, science has taught us that belonging is necessary to learning. Really, it can be a pretty lonely business, can't it, beavering away on your own? Especially if on top of that, the exams themselves are remote too. So sharing experiences and ideas, asking for help and being there for each other becomes a huge part of your support network. But we don't stop there. You also have a weekly classroom where I personally will work with you and help you hone your study technique. All your questions will be answered. All your study challenges addressed. I'm a teacher, remember? I know how to teach you what you need. So there's no chance of your being left behind, and you'll automatically be included in the Fast Track 6-week challenge. If that doesn't get you off to a great start, then nothing will. Remember, this usually costs $3,000. Just wait till I tell you what your investment will be. So now you know how your training is delivered. Here's your roadmap, the skills and understanding you need, the bit you've been missing. The first thing we need to do is to identify exactly what you've been doing so far that hasn't worked. And you need to stop doing it. You need to understand where in your brain your genius lies, and you need a straightforward and simple plan to follow, so there's never a moment when you're unsure. This is all about learning fast. It's about thinking about how you think. It's about knowing how your brain makes a pattern of information and sends it to your long-term memory. And the best bit, as Michael Caine famously didn't say, not a lot of people know this, you only have to learn 10% of the information in your textbook to remember 100% of it. That makes the whole challenge totally doable and does away with the fear of never getting through the mountain of stuff you're supposed to know. Of course, your genius will be in knowing where that particular 10% is. And as you already know, you begin to forget information 10 minutes after you've learned it, unless you have bubblegum finance. We need information to stick around, and we do that through a very quick, fun, and motivating process, which includes sticky questions and my bucket system. Intrigued? I hope so. Listen, I'm a teacher. Teaching has been my business for decades. I know what I'm talking about, and I know how to teach you what I know. When you work with me, you won't find yourself left behind. I won't let you. You also need to know how to get yourself into the ideal learning zone. You need to be like an efficient machine. And also, if there's a little bit of something else getting in the way of progress, the good news is we have the resources you need to set you on the right path and then keep you there. Procrastination, imposter syndrome, inability to focus, lack of confidence, self-doubt, fear of failure. These and others are all issues we transform, leaving you free to get on with the business of passing your exams. I really don't know anyone else providing this level of expertise and support. By the way, you'll be practicing your new study system directly on the information you're learning for your next exam. There's none of this, that's great, but how do I apply it to what I have to learn nonsense? No, the way I've set this up means that by practicing and refining your study strategy, you'll simultaneously be on your way to passing your next exam automatically. Ask any of my clients. It's such a relief when you become that confident person who passes exams easily. Remember, you'll also be invited onto the 6-week challenge to get you up and running. And as you know, you'll have the membership area to access the training, the Fast Track community, and our weekly classroom. And you'll have all this support for a whole year. Imagine where you'll be in 12 months' time with some of your exams already under your belt. What's more, Fast Track counts towards the 35 hours of CPD you're obliged to do every year. To give you an indication, the Leeds Insurance Institute allocated 6 hours to their Fast Track CPD. It all counts. So by engaging in a program which will provide you with everything you need for exam success, you'll also, by default, be ticking a few CPD boxes too. You really are in the right place at the right time. Because instead of paying $3,000, I'm ripping the price up. Because you're on this webinar and I want you to succeed. And I have that ambition of my own to reach 1 million professionals. It's now or never. Because in order to fulfill on my commitment to you, I can only take a limited number of new students at a time. You'll have to be quick. You can have all of this for only £47 a month. I am not kidding. You've seen the price it is for everyone else. So you need to use the code CII2500. You'll also find the link and coupon code in the resources, £47 per month for each of the 12 months of your membership. I really want to make this a total non-brainer for you. And if that's not already enough of a convincer, here's my guarantee. If it doesn't work, you can have your money. Simple as that. It's a conditional guarantee, mind. I'm not messing about here. If you don't show up and do the work, and you don't ask me for help, and you ask me for your money back, I'll tell you to go whistle. Letting people duck out isn't how I get them to excel in exams. However, I promise you that if we agree that you really have followed my advice, you've asked me for the help you need when you need it, and it really doesn't work for you, I will cheerfully give you back your money. I can promise this with confidence because I haven't yet found anybody who hasn't been able to massively improve their study skills and pass their exams. So you've got absolutely nothing to lose. All the risk is on me, and I'm happy with that because it's important to me that you get the tangible results you need, that I deliver on my promises, that we both take responsibility for the outcome, that we both strive for excellence, and between us make a positive difference to the world. The registration page looks like this. Notice the price at the top of this page. I don't want you to pay that, so you must use the discount code CII, capital letters CII 2500. Fill out your details as you work your way down the page, and before you select payment method, you'll see in blue, have a coupon. You need to click on it. Paste the discount code, click return or enter on your keyboard, and you'll bring the price down to the £47 I promised you. Notice what happens to the price at the top of the page. Make sure you use your code, otherwise you'll pay the £297 a month. I want you to have the special price. You'll get exactly the same program, exactly the same attention and support as the people who pay £3K. Do it now, before all the places have gone. I mean business. Once you've registered, and you'll have immediate access to the training and instructions for our next classroom. All your study challenges will be addressed. There's no chance of you're being left behind, and you'll automatically be included in this fast-track 6-week challenge. Imagine the feeling 6 weeks from now when you realise you've already put your studying worries behind you. Watch out though. You'll find that you can use this discount code only for as long as I have places available. It's very important to me that anybody on my programs has enough of my time and attention and support so that they absolutely definitively get the results they need. So if you're watching this webinar on catch up as a recording, please do try the discount code. If it works, it's because I can take on another member. If not, get in touch and we'll see what we can do. And if you don't take action today, more than likely you'll continue to go around in circles. I want you to go into the exam not familiar with the subject, but a master of it, knowing exactly what you have to say in order that the examiner cannot not give you full marks. That's what I want for you, and that's what you can expect when you know what you're doing. Most advisors are doing the wrong things. Don't be one of them. Your life could be so much easier. Because as long as you show up and do the work, this will work for you. Okay. I know I've gone on long enough. I can't help myself. I'm so mad keen for you to fix the problem and succeed. I want you to ace those exams and move forward with the rest of your career. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my excitement and enthusiasm.